There's a version of you that looks great on the outside, considerate, self-aware, doing the work. You say the right things, you share the right posts, you talk about growth, you call yourself accountable, and yet you might still not be doing good. That's the uncomfortable truth most people never examine, because examining it means admitting that appearing good and actually doing good are two entirely different things. And somewhere along the way, most of us got very skilled at the first one while avoiding the second. Appearing good is about management. It's about how you're perceived by your friends, your partner, yourself. It's the apology you give quickly so the conflict ends. It's the boundary you announce publicly but never hold privately. It's calling yourself a work in progress as a way to pre-excuse the behavior you're not actually working to change. Appearing good can look almost identical to doing good. That's what makes it so easy to confuse and so dangerous to ignore. Doing good is something else entirely. It's quieter. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't require that the other person notices, validates, or responds. Doing good is rooted in who you are when no one is watching and there's nothing to gain. It's the decision you make in the moment that costs you something. Maybe comfort, maybe approval, maybe the story you've been telling about yourself. No one wakes up deciding to wear masks or be a fraud. The slide from doing to appearing, it's gradual. And it almost always starts with fear. Fear that you're not actually good. Fear that if people saw the whole picture, every pattern, every reaction, every private moment, that they would leave. So you manage the picture instead. You learn which parts of yourself are safe to show and which ones to keep quiet. But you become very good at framing. But you cannot lie to yourself. Even when you get really good at buying your own bullshit, there is a nagging at your conscience that tells you the truth. You might just be ignoring it. That nagging is worth paying attention to. It's the distance between the version of yourself you're presenting and the version you actually are. And the wider that gap gets, the harder it becomes to close. So ask yourself, when I apologize, am I apologizing for what I did or for how it made me look? There's a real difference. An apology for what you did accepts responsibility and asks nothing in return. An apology for how it made you look is a transaction. You say the words, the tension eases, you move on without actually changing anything. Most people can't tell them apart in the moment, but the person on the receiving end usually can. Now, when you set a boundary, am I protecting something real or avoiding something uncomfortable? Boundaries have become a cultural shorthand for self-preservation, and that's not entirely wrong. But a boundary rooted in identity and who you actually are and what you actually value looks different from a boundary rooted in avoidance. One is a line you hold because it reflects what you stand for. The other is a wall you build so you don't have to do the hard thing. When I do something good, does it need to be seen? This one is sharp. If you find yourself volunteering information about your growth, your healing, your progress, ask why. There's nothing wrong with sharing, but if the sharing is the point, if the acknowledgement is what you were actually after, then the action was never really about goodness. It was about the appearance of it. Doing good is largely invisible because it isn't performed. It happens in the decisions you make when no one validates them. It's telling the truth to someone when the lie would have been easier and gone undetected. It's following through on a commitment even when the circumstances changed and you could have gotten away with not. It's choosing to show up for someone when you're exhausted and there's nothing in it for you. Goodness is defined as the cultivation of behaviors that turn toward values and virtues. The word cultivate matters here. It implies ongoing work, not arrival. You are not good once. You practice good imperfectly, consistently, without requiring it to be noticed. That's also why values and virtues, when they're real, often go unseen. They're not for public consumption. They're rooted in identity. They shape how you show up in private, in small moments, in the places where no one is keeping score. Here's where this lands in a way that might be uncomfortable. Most people reading this are going to recognize the performance in other people before they recognize it in themselves. That's how it works. The gap between how we see ourselves and how we actually show up is one of the most protected blind spots we carry. So this isn't an invitation to judge anyone else. It's an invitation to look honestly at yourself, not to shame yourself. Shame shuts down reflection. It doesn't open it up. But honest self-assessment, that's where the gap starts to close. So ask the questions above, sit with the answers. And if the answers reveal that you've been working harder on your image than your character, that's not a verdict, it's just a starting point. The difference between appearing good and doing good is not a character flaw, it's a pattern. And like every pattern, it can be changed. But only if you're willing to stop managing what you look like long enough to do it.